Tower of God is the new big thing on everyone's radar. It adapts one of the most well-known manhwa, that's a Korean comic, and it has been met with a clash of different opinions. Wherever you look, you either see someone praising the hell out of it or the complete opposite. Some say it's basic and boring, some engaging and exciting, but just ignore those people. I'm here to bring you the most honest and fair review, for the first 3 episodes of course, and spare you the confusion surrounding it. So, what's Tower of God about? A tower, a girl, a boy chasing after the girl. Pretty simple, right? The story takes place in a supernatural tower. It's said that whoever makes it to the top of the tower will achieve everything they desire. But everyone has their different reason to climb it, such as our main character Baam, who's chasing after his friend Rachel as she chose to climb the tower to achieve her dream. Most people are born and raised within the tower, having the chance to be chosen and participate in a series of challenges that once overcome should take them one floor closer to the top. They get called regulars. However, certain people can bypass the rules of the tower and enter on their own accord without being chosen. Those are called irregulars and come from the area outside the tower from where Baam originates. Once inside the tower, Baam is required to form a team and work his way to the top in search of Rachel. It's a pretty interesting setup that allows the story to have a diverse array of tests, games and challenges. But that also means the story relies on how interesting each individual test is, since the overarching storyline is basically continuing beating the test. It's also more on the battle shonen side, so there's going to be a lot of fights. I like cool characters fighting other cool characters, so I see this as an absolute win. What can I say? I've not read the manhwa, so I can't give you more insight into what happens beyond what the anime offered. Boo, I know, right? What's wrong with me? But it also means I won't have a bias, and I can be more honest here. I won't tell you that you will get better later down the line or that some stuff that doesn't make sense now will get explained in the second season. None of that. I keep telling people Gintama gets like really good after 60-ish episodes and they still tell me to fuck off because they won't wait that long. The story has potential, real potential. If it delivers on this exam type of formula, it might be enough to carry the show alone. But so far the tests themselves don't feel very exciting, they leave a lot to be desired. The protagonist, so far, passed them easily and unaware because he had luck and something was special about him. That doesn't do much for me. I don't want another fairy tale where Natsu beats everyone because he's actually a spoiler. Very powerful demon, but you don't know that until 400 chapters in. I don't know how to feel about the fact that the protagonist received what seems to be a really strong weapon because he is handsome in the eyes of a princess who just appeared out of nowhere to aid him. The princess also being one of the most powerful and influential people in the tower. And she somehow has sort of a crush on our protagonist after meeting him for like 5 minutes even though he spoke maybe a couple of words to her. Definitely questionable, but let's just say it's something convenient for the sake of it. I don't think it breaks the anime, but it definitely takes away quite a few points, which is why I can understand the people that aren't really into the series at the beginning. It doesn't start promising, but rather clumsy, and that has more to do with the production rather than anything. But before we go into that, I want to go over the characters. It seems like the protagonist, Baam, suffers from the typical main character syndrome. He's incredibly dull and I couldn't sit through any episode if he climbed the tower alone. Whoa whoa whoa, the manhwa readers are coming! And that's what development is for, he will develop later, you want everything from the get-go. Okay, come on now. Who told you that a character can be interesting and also have development? Needing development has nothing to do with being a tedious protagonist, and I'm sure you all know that. I know he doesn't remember much of his past, I know he's dependent on Rachel and thus supposed to be weak, but it doesn't justify the bland personality. On top of this, he feels like a filling, the third wheel, he lacks a clear motivation compared to his teammates. He's like a newborn child being carried around. My first impression is, a boy wants to climb the tower because the girl he likes left him to watch the stars. But let's talk about Kun for a moment, the other mainish character. I think there's a slight inconsistency in his writing that I found really odd. He's introduced as a calm and calculating character, he doesn't seem to panic, doesn't seem to lose his temper. He's somewhat cunning and it's clear that he's more brains than muscles. But in the third episode, during the door challenge, he's overwhelmed by some PTSD, loses all of his concentration, starts to yell, then when it's over he's quickly back to his previous self. The fuck was that? Just for the sake of it I went and read the corresponding chapter, and that doesn't happen in the webtoon. Instead, he overthinks. And by the way, it's more tense in the webtoon, but let's leave that aside for now. He measures the possibilities while subtly showing his lack of trust in anyone but himself. He doesn't panic, doesn't yell, he just overthinks inside his mind, much like how his character has been established until that point. I don't really get why the anime chose to change it, but it wasn't an inspired decision. On the other hand, Rak, the alligator crocodile, is a real broski. Very cool. Production. I love the art style, but at the same time, I hate it. It's vivid and alive, but also rough and cartoonish. I like the pencil line contour and how clothes fold, but I really dislike the absence of shadings as it makes most of the scenes appear flat, like they have overly flat coloring. The art style gives the sensation that it's unfinished, and I think it's fair to say it lacks polishing. While the animation is minimal, let's just say that. The transitions between each scene are very questionable. They give me the impression of corner cutting as they are disjointed and look like rough jump cuts that completely destroy momentum. Take the fight from the third episode during the crown game. Anak, the lizard girl, fights one of the teams, and when the members rush to get the crown, since that was their last chance of winning, she suddenly appears above the throne. Here, I'll play the scene for you. No, as far as I know, she can't fly nor teleport, she's just really fast. There is zero momentum to indicate movement, and this is a consistent problem that also affects the overall pacing of the anime. It feels like the pacing has been dictated by Nikolai Arcel while directing the Dark Tower. Super fast paced. There's not much room to breathe, we jump from a test to another without learning much and with nothing mattering much either. I hate being spoon-fed useless information. The first episode was 90% exposition and I still knew nothing about the tower except that it grants wishes. Main character maybe spoke a few words to showcase some personality and that was pretty much it. But by the third episode these problems get slightly mitigated. They're not gone but mitigated. The pacing gradually gets better, but I'm afraid it might take too much considering it's a 13 episode anime. Honestly, this mediocre visual production doesn't help the adaptation at all. Instead of elevating it, it digs a grave for it. If these first 3 episodes didn't sparkle on the visual aspect, I don't think the visuals will get any better. I could be wrong, but in a period where the first impressions dictate the longevity of an anime, I wouldn't expect much. But at least the soundtrack is pretty good. Kevin Perkins, known for Made in Abyss and Shield Hero, I don't think he needs an introduction, works on the soundtrack, and he nails it as always. Overall, it definitely has good potential. It has awoken my inner shounen persona, but I think the execution of future tests will make it or break it though. The characters didn't grow on me yet, but there's still some time left. It usually takes quite a bit for this type of shows to lay the ground and showcase their bread and butter, but I think the production quality might prevent it from reaching its potential. It doesn't help at all. It rather detracts from my enjoyment each time a transition appears, and there are plenty. So far, Tower of God isn't great, nor trash. It kind of sits on average with potential. If you feel the same as I do, give it a few more episodes, hopefully it will surprise us, because it's definitely not a drop. And if you already like it, that's great, enjoy the things you do. A good thing that comes from all of this is that we might get more Webtoon adaptations in the future. Maybe we'll finally get Bastard adapted one of these days. I sure hope so. Anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you later.